Hello, everyone. My name is Sean Moeller, and I am going to be your athletic director for the next 4 years. I am so excited to be hosting the first ever Zoom athletics welcome to the freshman meeting. And I'm also really excited to get to know you all on a personal level over the next 4 years. Our coaches are excited to get to know you on a personal level, get to know your athletic backgrounds, your experience, your ambitions, your desires, your goals, everything as it relates to JCHS athletics. We are super excited to have you part of our community. So tonight, we are going to present a bit about our athletic program, just kind of a brief overview, and then have an opportunity to answer any questions that you might have. So I'd like to start by introducing, we are so lucky to have 3 of our most amazing, charismatic, just unbelievable student athletes on the panel tonight. Noah Sharabi, Emma Yagelnitzer, who's going to join us in a bit, and Ethan Feinstone, all of whom are members of our Student Athletic Advisory Council. So I'm going to have them introduce themselves now, starting with Ethan. And then because Emma's not here, we'll go Ethan and then Noah. Go ahead, Ethan.
Hey guys, my name is Ethan Feinstone. I live in San Rafael, California, and I am a senior this year. I play both basketball and varsity soccer.
Hi, my name's Noah Sharabi, and I live in the East Bay. I am currently a junior, and I play girls basketball and I swim.
Thank you, Ethan and Noah, and we're going to have Emma join us a little bit later. Up on the slide right now is kind of the agenda for the program tonight. Oh, Emma just joined us. Emma, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Emma. I'm a junior, and I have played volleyball, basketball, swimming, and baseball.
And again, Noah, Emma, and Ethan are all members of our Student Athletic Advisory Council, which we'll go into a little bit more detail later on in this program. So just looking at the agenda real quick, we're going to briefly touch on our program philosophy and expectations for student athletes, followed by some discussion about what we offer by season in terms of team sports. We're going to talk about communication, how you get your information for athletics at JCHS. We'll talk about fall sports 2020. So for those of you that are planning on doing cross country, girls volleyball, or boys soccer, we'll talk about what you need to know for this summer going into the season. And then of course, we'll do a Q&A. We'll answer any questions you might have. And I'd like to open up questions as well to our student athletes that are on the panel tonight. So we'll start first with a little bit of our sports philosophy and expectations for our student athletes. So at JCHS, we have kind of a 3-tiered philosophical tier, starting with the promotion of health and wellness. So kind of like our expectation and our goal is that you'll graduate from JCHS with a deep understanding of kind of the importance of maintaining a healthy and active lifestyle. Our second pillar is the idea of using team sports to complement the educational experience at JCHS. So it's kind of like educational athletics. Another way to look at this is all of the life lessons you learn through sports. And I know many of you in your middle school careers have already had tremendous experiences forming lifelong bonds with friendships and also just things that have happened in team sports that have really provided a great opportunity for you to learn things about life. And then the last one is a balance of being inclusive at the same time being competitive. So on the inclusive side, I think JCHS is very unique in that we encourage all of our student athletes, regardless of their background, regardless of their level of experience or skill level, to participate in a team sport at some point in their career at JCHS. And the reason we do that is that sports are awesome. As you guys all know, you all athletes on this call tonight, But all of the experience you have playing team sports, we want everyone at JCHS to have a little bit of that experience. So on the one hand, we're inclusive, which means we have a no cut policy. On the other hand, we also want to be competitive. And we've done a great job joining a new league a couple years ago that's more competitive, having tremendous success at the section level in a number of sports. So the idea and the goal is that we balance inclusivity with competitiveness. And to speak a little bit more about the competitive nature of sports at JCHS, I'm going to turn it over to co-captain of the boys soccer and boys basketball team, senior Ethan Feinstein.
Hey guys, so to talk a little bit about competitiveness, so I've been on varsity soccer and varsity basketball for all 4 of my years at JCHS, and so that's 8 seasons, and I've made it to playoffs in both of those sports in 8 seasons, and I won a regular season championship in basketball and a playoff championship in soccer my freshman year. We've made it to state semifinals, which is really crazy. We've done the equivalent in soccer. So we're just a really competitive team and school in every way, and we play against some of the best schools across the Bay Area and all of California.
Thank you, Ethan. And in order to be competitive, my next bullet point is to talk a little bit about commitment, because as a freshman coming into high school sports, we don't offer a lot of junior varsity programs, which is great because many of you will have an opportunity to jump right into a varsity program. And our varsity programs, the expectation is full season commitment. Just to let you know, because I know this question came up in the pre-session question session, when are practices? What is the commitment level? The expectation for commitment for sports at JCHS is, like I said, full season. So just like in the classroom, we expect you to attend every class. In the sports world, we expect you to attend every practice and game. And of course, things come up. So we have, leniency a little bit, but we do want you to be fully committed to the program. Our practices are typically Monday through Thursday from 3:30 to 5:30 with some exceptions. No practices or games on Fridays or Saturdays. And then for some varsity programs, we also do Sunday practices to make up for some of that lost time on Fridays. And to speak a little bit more about the commitment level and the reason why we expect full season commitment and dedication to your teammates and your teams, I'm going to turn it over to Noah Sharabi. Noah.
Yeah, so commitment really means that you show up to every practice and game and that you show up on time, because since we have a limited amount of practice time, every minute counts. Also, a huge part of commitment, and personally I think this is really important, is showing up and putting in your full effort while you're there and working hard. The harder you work, the more you're going to get out of it. And it's really important that you show respect to everyone that you're with and show up and work hard. Also, commitment means supporting your teammates, and that means on and off the bench. And the more commitment you put into a sport, the more you're going to get out of it, not just physically, but also as a community. The more effort everyone on the team brings in and the more commitment, the closer the team is going to be.
Thank you, Noah. And that leads me to my next bullet point, which is the most important reason you're at JCHS, your academics, staying on top of your schoolwork. It is not easy to be fully committed to sports and also excel in academics. It takes a lot of resourcefulness. It takes a lot of just advanced planning. You really have to be on top of it. And so my number one recommendation for you as a student athlete, and I'm going to let Emma speak to this in a second because she's done this for 4 years, but the most important thing, because you do miss a number of hours of class as an athlete, is to be in constant communication with your teachers. So if you're missing class, make sure you are connecting with your teachers ahead of time to know what you're missing, what you need to make up. Study halls, make sure to make proper use of your study halls, not to, mess around during that time. Actually utilize that time to keep up with your academics, because when you play a sport, especially a varsity sport, you're going to be traveling all over the Bay Area. You're going to be returning home late. I know many of you live far from the JCHS campus. So it's really important, especially as a freshman, to establish those habits early of staying on top of your academics as a student athlete, and really embrace the student part of student athlete. Emma, what can you add to that?
Yeah, I think my favorite thing that was said was that we are student athletes, and student does come first. So it's important that you are just talking to your teachers. And one of my favorite things about JCHS is that all of the teachers are genuinely there to help you and support you. So as long as you are staying in contact and letting them know, even if you send a quick email hey, we had a late practice, or there's a lot on my plate right now, if you could give me until the end of the week, that's super helpful, and teachers appreciate you taking the time to send that email and keeping them in the loop. And just as long as you're doing that, everything should be fairly easy, and people are mostly understanding about all of our athletics. And yeah, and the study halls are super important, that you use them to the best you can, and you use your time wisely. I also wanted to add that if anyone has questions during while we're saying anything, you can send it to the chat, and then we'll answer them when we get to the Q&A part.
Thanks, Emma. I think that we skipped over that part. So yeah, any questions you have, please add to the chat. Thanks. Thank you for adding that. My final bullet point is, I guess, a great piggyback on that, which is communication. I can't emphasize how important communication is at JCHS. So we want to know what's going on with you as student athletes. So whether it's an academic issue, an illness or injury, an issue with a coach, I'm your athletic director. Your coaches want to know what's going on in your life. Please communicate with us, communicate with your teachers. Constant communication is so important as a student athlete at JCHS or at any school. But just to let you know, moving from a middle school to high school environment, it's really important for you to understand that the expectation is that you are in communication with coaches, with athletic director, with your teacher about what's going on. So that we're in the know. Okay, moving on to the next slide here. Many of you were asking, what does JCHS offer? So this slide will briefly outline the sports that are offered by season. As you can see in the fall, we start August 10th. More on fall sports in a little bit in terms of what we're planning. But the sports that you are available to participate in are cross country. That's boys and girls varsity cross country. We have a junior varsity and varsity girls volleyball program, and we have a varsity boys soccer team. In the winter, which starts November 9th, we have a JV boys and girls basketball program, and we just started last year a club rock climbing program. And in the fall, when you return to school, there'll be more information on how you can participate and apply for the club rock climbing program if you're interested in that. And in the spring, starting February 8th, we have co-ed swimming, so varsity boys and girls swimming, girls soccer, varsity boys volleyball, varsity baseball, and club tennis. So these are the sports that we offer at JCHS. I'm happy to answer individually any questions you might have about those sports. I'll get more about how you can communicate with me on the next slide. In terms of communication information, I felt like it was really important to let both you and your parents know the best way to get information about sports at JCHS. I think one of the best resources we have is our website. So there's a photo to your right there that shows the athletic overview page. There's 3 different pages you can go to on the JCH website: the overview, team pages, and forms and resources. The team pages are really useful because you can find team schedules, rosters, and other information about practices on those specific team pages. And then there's a third page, which is really, really, really important, which is our forms and resources pages, where you can find everything from the physical forms to independent PE forms to there's all kinds of resources on that page for you. And so those, I'm just encouraging you, please, to when you have a question, try the website first, because oftentimes your question can be answered at the JCHS Athletics page website. Second point is the Hakel. So I'm not sure if you are familiar yet with the JCHS Hakel, but every Monday we have an all-school assembly. And during that assembly, I am usually up on stage announcing the Wolf of the Week, which is our athlete of the week, which is a really cool thing that we do weekly throughout the year. And then I'll also announce other sports stuff. So if there's upcoming information about fall, winter, or spring sports, I'll be announcing it there. So a lot of information you're going to need as a student will be announced at our weekly Monday Hakel assemblies. And then there's the email, which I know the younger generation is not as maybe proficient as some of us at using, but I would encourage you as freshmen coming in to make sure that you are checking your email, because a lot of times the best way to communicate with you is via email. And I will tell you this, I am extremely fast at responding to your emails. In fact, I will guarantee a 60-second response to any email you send me. That's a joke, of course, but I am extremely responsive. Parents, students, if you have a question about anything, please email me. My email address is there. I am more than happy to get back to you as soon as I get that email. That is probably the best way to get a hold of me. And then finally, last year we started an Instagram page at JCHS Athletics. If you have Instagram, go ahead and check it out. Please follow us. And we plan to expand that this year. Next slide, please. Finally, for those of you playing fall sports, just a little bit of information. Obviously, we're in an unprecedented situation in terms of the shelter in place. So right now, our plan is to start this season, fall season on time. Every intention that the school has in terms of starting school and starting sports is that sports will start August 10th and school will start on time. So I just want to put that out first. Of course, there are contingency plans in place for if the fall season has to be moved back, depending on what CIF and Governor Newsom announce. But I just want to let you know, if you're planning on playing fall sports, we are planning on starting on August 10th. What that means is that you will be getting emails from your fall coaches about summer training, probably starting in June, for things that you can do to get ready for the fall season. And I cannot emphasize enough the importance of being present on the first day of practice, which is August 10th. Now, keep in mind that the August 10th date is almost 2 weeks ahead of the first day of school. So, when you're making your summer plans, if I know summer plans are all up in the air right now with what's going on, but please, right now, circle August 10th. If you plan on, again, playing boys soccer, girls volleyball, or cross country, you need to be present at that first practice on August 10th. And then finally, sports physicals and pre-participation forms. This is also up in the air right now. Clearly, it's very difficult to get a sports physical with your doctor at this time because of what's going on. We are waiting to get some direction from CIF, from the North Coast section, about what they're going to do in terms of sports physicals. I do know they will be required before the season starts. So please look for information from me. I'll be sending you emails about how to get that done before August 10th, if indeed we start on August 10th, which is our intention, like I said before. Pre-participation forms will be sent out soon, I think probably by the end of May, from our registrar, Ms. Bregman, so please look for those. The combination of sports physicals and pre-participation forms are what you're gonna need in order to start practice the first day, August 10th. Next slide, please. Finally, just a little bit about our Student Athletic Advisory Committee. So we started this 2 years ago, and it's been very successful. As I mentioned before, all three of our student athletes on the panel tonight are members of SAC, or the Student Athletic Advisory Committee. What the committee does is we meet basically twice a month. We do mini workshops. We talk about or plan the all-school spirit games on campus. We talk about generating school spirit around sports. We do team check-ins, and it's a general brainstorm session of how to make the athletic experience a better one at JCHS. So you all as freshman athletes have an opportunity to be on this committee down the road as you matriculate through the grades at JCHS, but it's a great opportunity to have a voice. It's also the best way for you as a freshman athlete, if you have a concern or an idea or an issue, to go and first check in with one of the 8 members of our SAC, of our Student Athletic Advisory Committee, and then they can bring that to our meetings. So I don't know if any of our SAC members have anything else to add about SAC. I would love if Ethan, Emma, or Noah would chime in at this time. Ethan?
Yeah, I'll talk. So I was actually one of the founding members of SAC with Coach Mueller. And really it's really taken off. I would say taken off in the past year. This year we were, as you can see in the picture, we were really able to have a couple amazing school spirit games, and I remember how amazing it was because the varsity boys soccer team kind of plays far away, but during one of the all school spirit games we had like 30 or 40 students and teachers come to our game and support us, which was really amazing. It's also great because sometimes it's difficult to be on a varsity team, especially as an underclassman. So I had underclassmen like coming to me as a basketball and soccer representative if they had any problems on the team with the coach, with other teammates, and knowing that, like, I think it was really good for them knowing they could come to me or another staff member to talk about any problems they had or if they wanted to see a change. And we work directly with Coach Mueller, so there's no like working your way to the top, because Coach Mueller can just really deal with it, and that's what he's there for.
Thanks, Ethan. Emma, Noah, anything to add? Or
Yeah, I remember like in the beginning when we first started this, and it was mostly just like a place where we could talk about what's going on in our seasons. I think it was like Ethan spoke to it a little bit, but it was like a great place where if we're having any issues within a team, or like if we're not sure how something's going to work, or like, you know, those spirit games, it was great to like have a place to come and talk it out and have so many different athletes and different people like talking about it and trying to figure out how to like maximize and optimize our experience in our season. And I think that was really helpful. And yeah, I think this picture is from one of the first ones that we had at the volleyball game versus Gateway. And it was just amazing because we often like play in a lot of different places that aren't necessarily close. So we and we have a smaller like we didn't get a lot of people coming to our games, and then at this game there were so many people, and it was just such a great like experience to have all that support and like all the people there cheering for us.
Yeah, so I would just reiterate that all SAC members are definitely point people. If you have any concerns regarding athletics, definitely come and talk to any of us.
thanks, Noah. Thanks, Emma. Thanks, Ethan. Next slide, please. So that kind of wraps up the overview. Want to remind you that if you have any questions, I see in the chat right now, there's one question asking about PE, which I'll get to in a second. If you have any other questions, please go ahead and put them in the chat room. But we did collect some of your questions in advance, so I want to just cover kind of the 6 main kind of most common questions that were asked, and then I'll open it up to whatever else you have on mind. But one of the first questions was, and this is a very pertinent question with regards to what's happening currently with COVID. And the question that a few of you asked was, what are your plans if fall sports cannot proceed as planned because of what's going on? And the best way to answer that question for you is I'm in constant communication with our conference commissioner, with all of the athletic directors in the North Coast section. In fact, we had a webinar today. And really, ultimately what we're doing is we're all planning to start sports, like I said before, on time on August 10th. Of course, we have to be flexible. We have to have contingency plans, and there are a lot of different contingency plans out there that the section and the CIF are discussing with regards to fall sports. I'm crossing my fingers that we're able to start on time, and that's what we're planning for. Of course, if we cannot cannot start the seasons on time, we're going to take direction from Governor Newsom and the CIF in terms of what to do, and it's probably going to be sport specific. All of that information will be sent to you via email over the summer as soon as I learn of what the plans are for starting sports in the fall. And again, I'm crossing my fingers. We're all hoping that we can start on August 10th for all 3 of our fall sports. So that answers that question. Another general question you guys had was, you were curious about what other high schools that we play against. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn that over to Ethan, who has played multiple sports over his last 4 years, and we've played a lot of different schools. But if you were asked that question, Ethan, how would you answer it?
We play a lot of different teams, also depending on the sport. In San Francisco, we play teams during the regular preseason playoffs like Urban, International, Bay, San Francisco, Waldorf, Gateway, and then also Drew, which is really close by. And most of those teams will play during the preseason and during the regular season and league playoffs. And then during sectional and state playoffs, we really play teams from all over. This year we played a team from Fremont in sectionals. We played a team that is close to Eureka. I've had to travel a couple times up to Reading, which is also close to the northern border, California. So we really play teams from all over, but during the regular season, there'll be mostly teams from San Francisco. Actually, all teams from San Francisco next year.
Thank you, Ethan. And I see some of the questions in the chat room I'm going to get to in a second. I'm just going to kind of go through a few of the questions you asked prior to the meeting tonight, and then we'll get to those chat room questions. The next question is, how do tryouts work? A few of you asked, we're curious about tryouts. And so I'm going to toss that over to Emma.
Yeah, so there aren't a whole bunch of, I know that there aren't like a different JV and varsity for a couple of our sports, but for volleyball in particular, the tryouts are essentially like a supervised practice. So you go to practice and do all the drills with everyone as a big group, and the coach will just be looking out for different people and what your skill level is like. And usually at the end there will be a 6-on-6, and we'll just play a game, and either at the end of practice or later in an email you'll find out what team you're on. So it's not really like a labeled tryout. It's more like a practice where you get to show your abilities, and then it's just kind of looked at by the coach and they make a decision. There are no cuts, so if you either make JV or varsity. There's no way that you don't play. So yeah.
Great. That you answered that question perfectly. I'm going to go to the chat real quick. Someone asked, let's see here. Gabrielle asks, can you do two sports that are in the same season, like play volleyball and cross country at the same time? Unfortunately, you got to choose. In season sports, there's no way to do both at the same time. There are some exceptions. So like in the springtime, we don't have a track team, but we have had students who play a sport and then still compete at track meets, which are oftentimes on the weekend, which is a whole nother conversation. But generally speaking, you need to commit yourself to one sport per season. Another question in the chat room is, if a student has a prior outside school commitment and is unable to make it to some games and practices, are they still allowed to be part of the team? The general answer to that question is no. However, it depends on what the outside school commitment is. So we take it on a case-by-case basis. Generally speaking, you're going to need to commit, like your other teammates, to the full season practice and game schedule. However, for example, if it's a club sport, so with soccer, a few of our players play club soccer, we will allow them to attend club soccer practice in lieu of our team soccer practice, as long as it's the same sport and they're training for that sport in that season. And then I think it was Yulia who asked that question. If you have a follow-up, I'd be happy to answer that, or over the phone, or if you want to email me with a more specific, I'd be happy to answer that question. Our next question we had from the list here was, where do we practice and play our games? Since we don't have a gym on campus or a field on campus, we do utilize a number of different facilities, and I'm gonna throw that one over to Noah because she's played a few different sports in a few different places. Noah?
Yeah, so we use a lot of different facilities. All of them are within walking distance from school, so they're very close. For most of our sports that need a gym, we go to the Y, that's like 5 minutes walking from school, and basketball, our home games are at Ella Hill Hutch, which is also very close to school. For swimming, our swim meets are at Hamilton Rec, which is very close to school too. So everything is walking distance, and generally you would walk to practice with your team or one or two other teammates.
Thanks, Noah. We have a question, will there be travel and additional expenses involved? And also asking about uniforms. So in terms of travel and additional expenses, there are no additional expenses. We have a fleet of vans that we transport the teams to practices and games with. Coaches drive those vans. So that's how we handle transportation. And there's no expense involved in that additionally. And then in terms of the uniforms, no expenses involved. We issue team uniforms, team warm-ups, which we then collect at the end of the season and reuse through a uniform cycle of 2 to 3 years. So all athletes will be given a uniform. Let me see here. I have a question about how can parents get involved in JCHS athletics? I think I'm going to turn that one over to Ms. Tickton, who is a JCHS parent and also a member of our panel and a member of the professional community.
Thank you, Coach. Yes, I'm always happy to talk about JCHS, anything, but I do love being a JCHS parent and parent of athletes. My daughter Chloe graduated last year. She was a 4-year varsity player in volleyball. She also played basketball, soccer, ultimate frisbee, and she even tried tennis during her JCHS years for the first time, and she loved that. So for those of you who are wondering if it's possible to juggle multiple activities, it is. She also did the winter play last year, which was a great experience. And many of our athletes play multiple sports and do lots of activities. So it's great to try new things. My current junior, Ethan, is proud to have spearheaded the creation of the JCHS boys volleyball team, first as a club and now for the last 2 years as a varsity team sport. He also played basketball and ultimate frisbee. It's really fun to support JCHS athletics. For parents, those of you who you're incoming 9th grader, this is your first high schooler. It's a little different in high school being a parent than it is in middle school and lower school. You know, it's kind of a good time to start separating a little bit and letting them initiate things and kind of be the one communicating to us about practices and important things. Most of the coaches and Coach Mueller will communicate with us, of course, too, but it's good to kind of let them drive the bus. My husband and I really enjoyed going to the games and cheering on all of our teams. None of our children played basketball last year, but we attended almost every game of the season and the postseason because it was so fun to cheer on our Wolves and watch them do so well. We try to show our team pride whenever we can, and there's lots of great ways for parents to get involved by just role modeling, being on time and being committed, showing up and having a good attitude, and then also rallying others to join you at the games and the matches if you're able. School spirit is contagious, and we've recently, our JCHS teams won the sportsmanship banner over all of the other schools in the Bay Area Independent Athletic League, and we're super proud of that banner and all the other ones that our teams have earned over the years. They're all hanging at our school in the Commons, and we're just so lucky to have our amazing Coach Moeller leading the way, and he's awesome with our students and our parents. And as always, I'm thrilled to welcome you to our school. And as a JCHS parent, I'm also always happy to chat about JCHS sports anytime. Go Wolves!
Thank you, Ms. Tickton. And I think we just have time for a couple more questions. I see one here about question about if parents have experience in coaching and an interest, could they get involved? And the answer to that is absolutely. Please contact me if you have experience in coaching. We're always looking for assistant coaches. And if you have enough experience head coaching as well, you know, we have an incredible coaching staff at the moment, and most of which, I think with the exception of 1 or 2, are coming back for next season, which is great. But we're always looking to add assistant coaches. So please reach out to me directly if you're interested in helping out with one of our teams, and I'll let you know if there's availability. And then the last question, unless anything pops up here, has to do with PE. A couple people asked, what is PE like at JCHS? And I don't know if this was covered in any of your earlier discussions on the academic side, but we don't have a physical education program at JCHS, mostly because of our Jewish Studies program kind of fills that void in terms of the class load. So what we do at JCHS is we allow students to fulfill their physical education requirement in a couple different ways. One is to play sports. So those of you that play sports regularly, it'd be very easy for you to fulfill that requirement. You need 3 semesters out of your 8 high school semesters involved in PE. So PE can be playing a sport or doing independent PE. And that's a larger conversation, which I'm happy to have later on. Those of you, the freshmen coming in, you'll get a presentation from me about what independent PE can look like. Essentially, it's doing PE outside of the JCHS environment, whether it's, you know, creating your own program or doing classes at a gym, whether it's dance or whatever it may be. Those are the 2 ways to satisfy the PE requirement at JCHS, which is 1.5 credits or 3 semesters out of your 8 during your 4 years. And I think that covers all the questions. So, and we're kind of at our time limit, so I think we're going to wrap this up. And I just want to, again, thank all of you for attending the Zoom meeting tonight. I am, again, super excited to meet all of you freshmen coming in next season. And it's going to be a great school year. Please plan 100% on being at school on August 10th if you're a fall athlete, and of course starting school on time. We are all just really excited to get back to business as usual and hoping that that's the case. If you have any specific questions after this meeting, please feel free to reach out to me. Again, you have my email address. You can call me directly. But I'm just really proud and excited to be your athletic director, and go Wolves.